A lot of credit. Shedeur Sanders, was he great? Played good enough.
Yeah.
And they just played good enough where you let them hang around, and you hate that as a coach. You're sitting there going, guys, let's go, let's go. All of a sudden it's the fourth quarter and this game is tight.
This was supposed to be simple. Win the game and win the division. That was the only
techniques when you go up against Randy Moss. You want to stand with him, play through his quick moves, and then stay on top of him. And make sure that you have an eye on the quarterback to see where he puts it, because you don't want to get back shoulder.
Will you put your hands on him?
Some plays you'll jam him, some plays you'll get quick, and then you'll bail out of there because you don't want to get caught behind.
If he's going to press me, then I got to make one move. If he's running out of there like in cover 3, then it's a back shoulder because his head, he's not looking back at you. So once I get him and I beat him, then that means it's the race to the pylon. First one there.
The ESPN studio fell silent. Randy Moss, one of the greatest receivers to ever play the game, just said something that shattered every lazy narrative about Shedeur Sanders. No hesitation, no political correctness, no dancing around the truth. Just raw, unfiltered reality from a Hall of Famer who's seen thousands of quarterbacks come and go. And in that moment, everything the critics had been saying for months got exposed as exactly what it was: noise from people who don't actually understand winning football.
Let go of an opportunity like that, and obviously we'll bounce back. You got one more shot.
I mean, it's not difficult. That's our job, playing on 17.
And what gives you that confidence you guys are dealing with the great shit next week?
Because we've done it all season. We handled adversity well, and we had to play our best ball. And we did better than today.
You really love the sport and you really love the game.
For weeks, the media circus around Shedeur Sanders has been relentless. Too cocky, too flashy, more celebrity than athlete, riding his father's name, not ready for the pressure. The narratives wrote themselves, and the talking heads repeated them like gospel truth. But Randy Moss just walked onto live television and destroyed every single one of those arguments with facts, film, and the kind of credibility you can't fake. When a legend speaks, people listen. And what Moss said about Sanders wasn't just praise, it was validation that's been a long time coming. This wasn't some casual comment during a commercial break. This was Randy Moss staking his reputation on a young quarterback most analysts have already written off. Moss didn't just defend Sanders, he went to war for him on national television. He broke down the tape, highlighted the decision-making, pointed out the poise under pressure, and asked the question nobody else seemed willing to ask. Why are we holding this kid to standards we don't apply to anyone else? The moment went viral instantly because it cut through all the noise. Social media exploded with reactions from every corner of the football world. Coaches, former players, analysts who'd been skeptical suddenly had to reconsider their positions because Randy Moss just put his name behind Shedeur Sanders. And in the NFL, credibility matters. When someone with Moss's resume tells you a player can play, you don't just brush that off, you pay attention. What made this moment so powerful wasn't just what Moss said, it was how he said it. There was conviction in his voice, frustration at the unfair criticism, and genuine respect for what Sanders has accomplished. Moss has watched this league long enough to know talent when he sees it. He's caught passes from future Hall of Famers and watched busts flame out before they ever got started. He knows the difference between hype and substance, and he just told the entire football world that Shedeur Sanders is the real deal. The timing of this endorsement matters more than people realize. Sanders is entering the most critical stretch of his young career. NFL scouts are watching every throw, every decision, every moment under pressure. The narrative surrounding a quarterback prospect can make or break their draft stock, their career trajectory, their entire future in this league. And Randy Moss just flipped that narrative on its head at exactly the moment when Sanders needed someone with real authority to speak up. Critics have been attacking Sanders from every angle imaginable. They say he stares down receivers, that his footwork gets sloppy under pressure, that he lacks the arm strength to make NFL throws, that he's too small to survive getting hit by professional pass rushers. Randy Moss addressed every single criticism with film breakdowns that exposed how lazy and uninformed most of these takes actually are. He showed examples of Sanders going through progressions, making tight window throws, extending plays with his legs, and most importantly, winning games when it mattered most.
Tried to do everything he could to get away from Myles Garrett, but your defense kept him out of the end zone. What can you say about their standout performance today at home?
The defense is great. I know a couple weeks they had something to prove, but I feel like they stamped it. They got back to who they were.
The Cleveland game became the centerpiece of Moss's argument. Here was a young quarterback on the road against a top 5 defense with everything to prove and nothing handed to him. No excuses, no bailouts, just football. And Sanders managed that game like a 10-year veteran. He didn't try to do too much, didn't force throws into coverage, didn't panic when plays broke down. He played winning football, and Randy Moss made sure everyone watching understood just how difficult that actually is. What separated Moss's take from every other analyst out there was the specificity. He didn't just say Sanders played well, he explained why. He broke down route concepts, defensive coverages, protection schemes, and decision-making processes that most fans never even notice. This wasn't surface-level analysis from someone reading a stat sheet. This was a Hall of Fame receiver who knows exactly what it takes to win at the highest level. And he just told America that Shedeur Sanders has those qualities. The viral moment wasn't just about defending one player, it was about challenging the entire culture of lazy criticism that dominates sports media. Moss called out analysts who form opinions without watching film, commentators who repeat narratives without verifying facts, and fans who judge quarterbacks based on everything except their actual performance on the field. He reminded everyone that football is won between the lines, not on social media, and that results matter more than perception. Social media erupted with support from unexpected places. Former NFL quarterbacks started sharing their own film breakdowns, backing up what Moss said. Coaches who'd worked with Sanders came forward with stories about his preparation, his football IQ, his leadership in the huddle. Players who'd competed against him admitted he was far better than they'd given him credit for. The floodgates opened, and suddenly the narrative that had been building for months started crumbling in real time. But the haters didn't go quietly. They doubled down, moved the goalposts, found new criticisms to throw at Sanders. Too privileged, too connected, too confident. Randy Moss anticipated every one of these arguments and shut them down before they could gain traction. He pointed out that every successful quarterback in NFL history had advantages, connections, and confidence. The difference is whether you can back it up on Sunday, and Sanders keeps backing it up every single week. The moment resonated because it felt personal. You could hear in Moss's voice that this wasn't just professional analysis. This was a veteran protecting a young player from the same unfair treatment he'd faced during his own career. Moss remembers what it was like to be labeled a problem, to have every mistake magnified, to be held to standards that didn't apply to everyone else. And he recognized those same patterns in how Sanders was being treated by the media. What made this endorsement so powerful was Moss's track record for being right about quarterbacks. He's played with Brady, Culpepper, and several other elite signal callers. He knows what separates the good from the great, and he's never been afraid to call it like he sees it. When Randy Moss tells you a quarterback can play, history suggests you should listen. And he just told the entire football world that Shedeur Sanders belongs in the conversation with the best young quarterbacks in the game. The film clips Moss showed during the segment told a story the numbers alone couldn't capture. There was Sanders threading a ball between 3 defenders into a tight window. There he was reading a blitz pre-snap and adjusting the protection. There he was extending a play with his legs and finding the check down instead of forcing a hero throw. Every clip reinforced the same point. This kid understands football at a level most quarterbacks his age simply don't. Critics love to point at Sanders' confidence as evidence of arrogance. Randy Moss flipped that argument completely. He explained that confidence isn't arrogance when you can back it up. It's a requirement. Every great quarterback who's ever played this game believed they were the best player on the field. That mindset isn't a character flaw, it's a competitive advantage, and Sanders has it in abundance. The viral moment sparked a broader conversation about how we evaluate young quarterbacks. Are we judging them on measurables and traditional metrics that don't actually predict NFL success? Are we letting bias and perception cloud our analysis of what actually matters? Randy Moss forced those questions into the mainstream, and suddenly scouts, analysts, and fans had to reconsider whether they'd been fair to Sanders or just following a narrative. What happens next will define both Sanders' career and the credibility of everyone who's been criticizing him. If he continues developing and succeeds at the next level, Randy Moss looks like a genius who saw something everyone else missed. If Sanders struggles, the critics get to say they were right all along. But here's the thing, Moss isn't worried about being wrong. He's seen enough tape to know what he's looking at, and he just put his reputation on the line because he believes in what Sanders can become. The endorsement changes everything for Sanders heading into the draft process. Teams that might have been skeptical now have to reconsider. Scouts who'd written him off have to take another look. And most importantly, Sanders himself knows that one of the greatest players in NFL history just went to bat for him on national television. That kind of validation can't be bought, can't be manufactured, and can't be ignored. Randy Moss didn't just defend Shedeur Sanders on live television. He challenged an entire industry to do better, to look deeper, to judge players on what actually matters instead of lazy narratives that fit predetermined conclusions. And in doing so, he created a viral moment that will be remembered as the turning point in how people talk about one of the most polarizing quarterback prospects in recent memory. Hit that subscribe button if you want more real football truth that cuts through the narratives and shows you what actually matters on the field.